We are back with the Red Hulk and Latveria Doom series. So, if you like these videos, be sure to like, subscribe if you are new to the channel, and don't forget to hit the bell at the top to get all notifications. Deep in the underground of Latveria, where sunlight never penetrates, Thaddeus Ross opens his eyes after months of imprisonment. The musty air surrounds him, with cold metal walls reflecting his own shadowy image through the opaque glass. He, a once powerful general of the US military, is now a frail body, stripped of the gamma power that transformed him into the Red Hulk. Beside him are two unlikely allies: Deathlock, a cyborg with a shiny metal body, red eyes that flicker like beacons in the darkness, and Machine Man, a broken mechanical entity whose body is split in two, lying motionless on the cold ground. They have escaped from Doom's dungeon, a place that resembles a giant research center where brilliant minds are captured to serve his plans for world domination. The Doombots, humanoid machines with metallic green skins and cold iron masks, pursued them relentlessly. They circled the gray sky, their mechanical noise echoing like thunder. Ross and his comrades plunged into the icy river, the icy water seeping into his flesh, making him shiver. The river rushed, sweeping them over jagged rocks, and he felt the frailty of the human body without gamma power. They drifted to the riverbank, where white snow covered the ground like a cold carpet. Ross lay there, gasping for air, his breath turning to white smoke in the frigid air. Deathlock rose first, his cyborg body unaffected by the cold, its metal joints creaking as he moved. He pulled the Machine Man up, the mechanical entity now in two disjointed pieces, its signal lights flickering faintly. "We must move quickly," Deathlock said, his voice booming through the metal speakers, his eyes scanning the dark forest around him. Ross nodded, knowing the Latverian terrain like the back of his hand from his years of spying. "The nearest nuclear plant is not far from here. That's where I'll get my power back." They set off, through the snow-covered forest, where twisted branches stretched out like monstrous arms from the darkness. Ross's footsteps left deep tracks in the snow, and he could feel the fatigue spreading. Deathlock carried half of Machine Man, while Ross shouldered the other, the heavy metal weight on his shoulders. The wind howled through the forest, carrying the scent of metal and smoke from the pursuing Doombots. In the distance, he saw dark figures hovering in the sky, their searchlights illuminating the trees like giant eyes hunting for prey. The Latverian sky was gray, with heavy clouds that seemed to weigh down the world below. Ross led the group, his body shivering with cold, but his iron will propelled him forward. They followed the riverbank, where the rushing water created white whirlpools that distorted the three fugitives' images. Deathlock scanned the terrain with his sensors, his red eyes flashing whenever he detected danger. "Doombots are approaching from the north," he warned, his mechanical voice emotionless. Machine Man, though broken, still beeped faintly, as if trying to communicate. Ross paused for a moment, looking up at the sky where the machines flew. He remembered his days in captivity. Doom, with his blue cape and iron mask, had infiltrated his mind, mining his strategic knowledge to build an empire. "He thinks he can control everything," Ross muttered, clenching his fists. They continued on, crossing a vast snowfield where the cold wind whipped at their faces like knives. As they approached the nuclear plant, the sight that greeted them stunned Ross. Where the towering cooling towers should have stood, white smoke billowing from their chimneys, was now a barren expanse of snow-covered land. There was no trace of the massive structure, only the Doombots hovering about, their searchlights illuminating the ground like hunting lasers. Deathlock scanned the area, his sensors picking up radioactive residue. Confirmed, this was the site of the plant. Doom obliterated it. Ross gritted his teeth, knowing Doom had predicted his move. As the Sorcerer Supreme, Doom could erase anything with a wave of his hand. He looked around, seeing a small house on a nearby hillside, its red-tiled roof standing out against the white snow. "Every factory has a community to support it. We will find shelter there." They headed toward the house, their footsteps sinking into the snow, the wind howling like Doom's mocking laughter. The house became clearer in the dim moonlight, the front door ajar, the wind whining through it like a ghost. Ross pushed the door open and entered, the air heavy with the smell of decay. The wooden floorboards creaked under his feet, and he scanned the dark living room, where furniture lay scattered about as if hastily abandoned. Deathlock followed, carrying Machine Man in, setting the mechanical entity down on the floor. "I'll fix him," he said, opening the toolbox built into his metal arm. Ross moved deeper into the kitchen, where a dead pig lay rotting on the table, flies buzzing around the carcass. The stench made him wince, but he continued to explore. In the bathroom, the sink was more than half empty, the water stagnant in a murky sludge. They left in a hurry, without a struggle, he concluded. The house belonged to the people who worked for the factory, and now it was gone. While Deathlock repaired the machine man, wires flashing and mechanical noises echoing, Ross sat at the old computer in his office. The screen glowed with a pale blue light illuminating his scarred face. He flipped through the pages, and the truth dawned on him. Doom had taken over the world, with leaders kneeling before him at the United Nations. The image of Doom standing on a podium, his cape billowing, his iron mask glinting under the flashbulbs, made Ross's blood boil. He violated America, he growled, slamming his fist into the desk. Inside the abandoned house, the air was heavy with the smell of decay and cold metal. The pale moonlight filtered through the broken windows, illuminating the dusty wooden floor where Ross and Deathlock's footprints had left their mark. Thaddeus Ross stood in his small office, in front of a computer screen that glowed a faint blue. He had just discovered the horrifying truth. Doom had taken over the world, with leaders kneeling at his feet at the United Nations. Anger boiled in his chest, but he knew he had to act. He rummaged through drawers, finding a small arsenal hidden behind a wooden panel in the corner. The light from a flickering oil lamp illuminated old Kalashnikovs. The steel rusted but still sturdy. He lifted one up, examined the barrel, felt the cold weight of the metal in his hand. "Enough," he muttered, his eyes as sharp as knives. Across the room, Deathlock was busy repairing the machine man. His metal fingers moved quickly, welding together circuits that glistened like silver spiderwebs. The whirring of the welder echoed steadily, mingling with the faint beeping of Machine Man's mechanical body. The indicator light on his chest changed from red to green, a sign that life was returning. Suddenly, Machine Man sprang to his feet, his digital eyes flashing, his mouth repeating, "Doom, Doom, Doom." His voice was dry, like a machine with a stuck disc, causing Ross to stop and frown. "What happened to him?" he asked. His voice low but sharp. Deathlock looked up, his red eyes scanning Machine Man. "Everything," he answered shortly. But before Ross could ask more, there was a loud bang. The glass window shattered, debris raining to the floor, and a Doombot rushed in, its blue metal body glinting in the moonlight. Its iron mask was expressionless, but its crimson eyes radiated murderous intent. Ross reacted instantly, raising his gun and firing a volley. The bullets pierced the metal, sparks flew, and the machine collapsed in a cloud of black smoke. But he knew. Doombots worked in networks. One found them, and dozens would follow. The distant roar of engines echoed, the sky darkened by the black silhouettes of dozens of Doombots flying. Ross knelt down, peering out the window, seeing the machines hovering like a swarm of iron wasps, their searchlights illuminating the snow-covered forest. "Machine Man, I need you to get going," he roared, his voice full of authority. "Find the nearest nuclear missile and target these coordinates." Machine Man, now partially healed, scanned the data at breakneck speed. His digital eyes flashed, like a computer processing millions of calculations. "Doom missile cache located on satellite, location over Latveria," he said, his voice mechanical and clear. "The dungeon security code is still active. Launch the missile." Ross nodded, his eyes flashing with determination. He knew the plan was insane, calling a nuclear missile down on their position to activate the Gamma Force. But with dozens of Doombots coming, this was their only chance. The Latverian night sky lit up as the rocket crashed down, a streak of crimson light cutting through the night like a blade of fire. Its roar drowned out all other sounds, from the howling wind through the forest to the whir of the Doombots' engines. Ross stood in the middle of the snowy field, his lean body shivering in the biting cold, but his eyes were steadfast. Deathlock and Machine Man ran toward the forest, their metal bodies glinting in the moonlight. "Are you sure, Ross?" Deathlock shouted, his voice echoing through the metal speakers. "This explosion could turn you to ash." Ross didn't answer, just clenched his fists, watching the rocket crash down like a shooting star. He knew this was his last chance. The Doombots surrounded him, their searchlights illuminating him like a hunted prey. "If I don't succeed, I'm dead," he muttered, his voice as deep as an oath. The explosion shook the heavens and earth. A massive column of fire erupted, engulfing the field, melting the snow and burning everything within 100 yards. The shockwave spread out, knocking down old pine trees, and black smoke billowed like a living monster. Deathlock and Machine Man, who had just managed to hide behind a large boulder, felt the ground shake beneath their feet. "He's done for," Deathlock muttered, but Machine Man, whose sensors scanned the smoke, shook his head. Gamma radiation spiked. From the center of the explosion, a giant red hand punched through the charred earth. Rubble flew, and Red Hulk leaped out, a hulking mass of muscle, his skin glowing red as lava. He roared, a thunderous roar that shook the forest. Gamma energy coursed through his body like a river breaking its dam, causing every muscle to swell, his eyes to burn like two flames. Doombot charged, but he tore them apart, his fists tearing through the metal like paper. Debris flew everywhere, sparks flew like fireworks, and there he stood, invincible among the rubble. Red Hulk stood tall in the blackened fields, smoke rising around him like a mysterious mist. The Doombots poured down from the sky in a storm of metal, the roar of their engines drowning out the wind. Dozens of machines, with cold iron masks and glowing red eyes, lined up, surrounding him. They spoke in unison, their mechanical voices echoing, "You are but one man, Thunderbolt Ross. We will not stop advancing, not just in Latveria, but throughout the world. Doom is everywhere." Ross smirked, his smile defiant. "Come," he roared, charging into the Doombots. Each punch he threw was like a bomb, tearing apart the metal, sending shrapnel flying. He leaped up, slamming one of the machines into the ground, cracking the ground. A Doombot fired a laser, but he dodged it, letting the beam cut through a pine tree, knocking it down. He grabbed the machine, snapped it in half like a twig, and threw the fragments into the crowd, creating a chain of small explosions. In the distance, Deathlock and Machine Man fought a single Doombot. Deathlock threw a punch, his metal hand slamming into the iron mask, denting it. Machine Man, his sensors back up, hacked into the Doombot's systems, causing it to freeze before self-destructing. "We need to meet up with Ross," Deathlock said, pulling Machine Man toward the field. They saw Red Hulk standing in the debris, his body glowing like a living flame, his eyes burning with rage. Machine Man scanned the signal, his mechanical voice booming. "I've contacted the US Air Force. They're sending support to the extraction point beyond the border." Ross nodded, his eyes still cold. "Good, we'll gather our forces and turn Latveria into ash." Deathlock frowned, but said nothing, just ran after Ross toward the extraction point. The pullout point was just outside the Latverian border, where a vast expanse of grass stretched out under a gray sky. The distant hum of helicopter engines was heard, and 3 of them appeared, their blades tearing through the air in small whirlwinds that whipped up a cloud of snow. Ross, Deathlock, and Machine Man stood waiting, the cold wind whipping their faces. One helicopter looked strange, with its shiny black metal body and angular design, unlike any model in the US Air Force. Machine Man scanned the signal, his voice booming. No radio signal detected. If they're communicating, it's on a closed channel. Deathlock frowned, a sense of unease rising. "Something's not right," he said, his grip tightening on his gun. A colonel stepped out of the helicopter, his uniform crisp, his face stern under his soldier's cap. He approached Red Hulk, his gaze cold. "I want to speak to General Ross," he said, his voice hard. Ross transformed back into his human form, standing up, but the colonel did not salute. "You are violating the treaty with Latveria," the colonel said. "Under international law, you are under arrest." Ross gritted his teeth, anger boiling. "America does not bow to doom," he roared, transforming back into the Red Hulk. He charged, smashing the nearest helicopter, sending shrapnel flying. But from the strange craft, a giant gun barrel descended, blue light flashing from its muzzle. Machine Man yelled, "Anti-gamma gun, move!" But it was too late. A beam of light hit Ross, knocking him to the ground, his body shrinking back into human form. Ross awoke in a cell, the cold white light of fluorescence illuminating the scars on his face. His hands and feet were shackled with a special alloy that was cold to the touch. Outside, the footsteps of the guards echoed steadily, mixed with the hum of machinery. He did not know what had become of Deathlock and the Machine Man, but inside, the fire of resistance to doom still burned. He closed his eyes, remembering his days in the army, the bloody battlefields, and the oath to protect his country. Doom had enslaved America, and he would not forgive. "I will return," he whispered, his voice as deep as a curse. Even though he was imprisoned, even though his gamma power had been suppressed, Ross's will would never yield. He knew that somewhere out there, the war was still going on, and he would find a way to return, with the red fire of the Red Hulk.